So, as you can see, I'm not in the van today, I'm at home. Yesterday, I tested positive for coronavirus, which is fun. Went to see a few of my friends in Ipswich at the weekend, and one of them decided to be a dick and catch coronavirus and then spread it to the rest of us. Thanks, Dan. But all in all, I feel fine. A little bit of a sore throat, a little bit of a headache, but you know, I'm young, I'm fit, I'm healthy, and I've had one of the old, so feeling good. So yeah, I've got to self-isolate for 9 days, which means I'm not in the van. Actually, let's go see the van. So currently the van is parked on my drive. There she is. Bit of bird poo. I'm gonna have to clean that up. But she's having a rest. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? Am I not going to do any videos for 9 days? It's going to be a bit boring. But then I got a comment from one of my subscribers, Gies Tez Klagt. I don't know, maybe German. Maybe you can comment below if you're watching. Sent me a message about my last video that I done on Nigel Farage. To be honest, my last video on Farage was just a pure and utter piss take. I didn't really take that video too seriously. I was just trying to take the piss out of him. But some of the interviews on that video, I wanted to dive into a bit more because they're quite interesting, and this is what one of my subscribers commented on the last video. So I'm actually going to dive in and take a little bit of a look, because as always with Farage, it's full of double standards, nonsense and rubbish. So yeah, I won't bore you with the whole intro. Basically they're just talking about the UK maybe adopting a similar policy to Denmark, where all refugees and immigrants that are coming over, we're getting quite a few on the boats from Calais in France. They want to adopt a similar policy to Denmark, where they ship them to Rewanda to be processed, stuff like that.
This year. That's my current prediction for the numbers that will come across the English Channel. Now, here's the point about what the Times said today from Priti Patel. We have seen, since the summer of 2019, our Home Secretary consistently make promise after promise as to how she would stop this problem. You know, we were going to have drones, we were going to have the RAF, we were going to do this, we were going to do that. But the point is, and you referred to Tony Abbott a moment ago. Now, Tony's a good friend of mine.
Tony Abbott, the is he ex? Yeah, I think he's ex Australian Prime Minister. Famous for putting up basically detention camps for any immigrants coming over, including women and children. So yeah, of course he's good friends with Nigel Farage, isn't he?
He started off with the offshore processing centres, but in the end he decided even that wasn't the way to solve it. In the end, what Abbott did, the boats were coming from Indonesia, and the Australian Navy put them under tow and towed them back to Indonesia.
You know what I love about that? Australia, one of the biggest countries on the planet, inhabited, what, about 80% uninhabited land? But anyone that comes over, no, fuck off, piss off. We ain't got no room. We've only got like about 10,000 acres of land, but we've got no room.
Nearly every one of these vessels coming into the UK is actually being escorted by the French Navy until it gets across the line into British waters, whereupon Border Force and our magnificent RNLI then act as a taxi service. Can you imagine, once you've accepted people in, and given that despite Brexit, we're still part of the European Convention on Human Rights?
Now, what I've actually learnt about this is the reason that this is happening even more after Brexit is when you're a part of the European Union and you're a country in the European Union, if you get refugees come over from another European country, you can send them back to that European country because we're all one big state. But now we're outside of Europe, we can't do that. So the French are going, right, you deal with it because you can't send them back. So the problem again is worse because of Brexit.
There is no legal way. There is no legal way we're going to be able to deport people to Rwanda
Why did Rwanda come into it? These bloody refugees, there's no legal way we can send them to Rwanda. Rwanda's like, what? Well, yeah, of course. What have we got to do with it?
Deport people to Rwanda or anywhere else. And once again, it's Priti Patel making promises that she can't deliver, cheering up the backbenchers, getting, a Tory party conference into rapturous applause. And I have to say, Priti Patel on this issue, once again, pretty useless.
I bet he's been looking forward to that joke all day, hasn't he? I bet he told the wife this morning, he's like, you wait till I get on that interview, I got a cracking joke. Priti Patel, pretty useless.
I think there's something else that is being missed here, and that's that, of course, you can say that we're going to stop the boats all you like, but people will want to come to this country. It's one of the best countries in the world, and people who are escaping squalor and misery, not only in war zones, but apparently also in northern France, are desperate to come here. So I think that the question is, and Priti Patel did set this out a couple of months ago in when she was trailing her new plan for immigration, is you need more secure legal routes for people to do the right thing, to go through the proper processes and to come here legally and become contributing tax-paying citizens of this country. The problem is if you don't have those legal routes, then people will find other ways to come here. So there's got to be two sides to this coin. Yes, find a way.
Farage shaking his head. I don't care if they're legal or they're illegal. They're still brown. I don't want them here.
Journey and to crack down on those criminal gangs that treat people as commodities, but also open up more legal routes for people to do the right thing.
Nigel Farage, let's just talk about the Danish role in all this, because if you look at the Memorandum of Understanding, it's available online, you can have a look at it. It's clearly a fairly substantive piece of work. It's not window dressing, it's not gimmickry. There seems to be a full-throated attempt to process asylum seekers who end up in Denmark in Rwanda, not an obvious place to go, but there it is. Is this a sense in which the UK is, climbing on Denmark's bandwagon, but also, and perhaps more importantly, what lessons might there be, for instance, for the Labour Party, when you look at the government in Denmark that's doing this? It's not an obviously traditional Tory government at all. It's of the centre-left, to some degree, a coalition with the Greens of all people, and they like this idea. There's a lesson there, surely, for Labour if they want to reclaim the Northern Heartlands and the Red Wall.
But Labour can't do that because so much of the Labour Party has now become this new sort of international socialist, we're all citizens of the world type party that they just can't make that jump.
What I think is more important here is the Labour Party are actually looking at why these refugees are coming over here, not trying to deal with the issue once it's exacerbated. Maybe if we stop bombing the Middle East, maybe they won't come over here. Maybe if we stop selling arms to certain countries in the Middle East, maybe they'll stop fighting. They're looking at that sort of thing rather than just how we deal with them when we get in.
But Denmark has had much tougher immigration policies than almost any other country in Europe for years and years and years. They do not have a serious problem with illegal immigration. Anyway,
now, this is the point my friend made in the comment section, Guise to correct. Okay. Denmark are inside the EU. Farage has just said they haven't had a major immigration policy and their immigration policy is very harsh, which completely flattens his whole argument about Brexit for why we had to leave in the first place, which is we can't have our own laws about immigration. Denmark have obviously proven that you can be within the EU and have a strong immigration policy. Why is no one pointing that out to him?
What we do is I've seen dozens of people today coming into this country, nearly all young men between the ages of 18 and 26. And Tom Harwood, I say this to you. If you make legal immigration easier into Britain, remember this. Net migration into Britain is now running at nearly 1/3 every year. The British population has increased by 8 million since the year 2000, and 84% of that is directly down to immigration. We ask ourselves, why is there a housing crisis? Why can't we get kids into primary schools?
maybe something to do with the Tory party slashing on public services for the last 10 years. Has that got anything to do with it at all? Austerity since 2010, public spending going down, being cut. Oh no, it's that bloody brown bloke coming over, isn't it? What, me?
Much of it is through those that come would never qualify to come into the country legally. Most have no identity documents whatsoever because they have deliberately, willfully thrown them away. They are being put within 24 hours into 4-star hotels up and down the country at a massive cost to this nation. And many will finish up effectively in the modern slave trade. And we should be ashamed that we're allowing this to happen. We have to absolutely tell the French we will no longer accept the French Navy escorting illegal dinghies out of their waters into ours. We are no longer a member of the European Union. We'll respect the 1951 Geneva Convention on refugee status, which says you claim that status in the first safe country you come to.
So, of course, Farage loves this Geneva Convention, because it basically means that we can bomb the crap out of the Middle East, cause havoc over there, sell arms, cause destruction, and when all the refugees leave, they enter into mainland Europe, don't they? We've got a nice little body of water around us, making it increasingly difficult for people to come in. So we can bomb the shit out of them and go, oh, fuck you, France, Germany, you deal with all the shit coming into your country. We don't want nothing to do with it.
Say with regard to illegal migrants that are costing this country an inordinate amount of money, and indeed refugees being put up in hotels, or asylum seekers I should say, being put up in hotels, and also statutorily banned from working in this country. Surely the answer there is to create more legal routes for them to become tax-paying, contributing members of society.
Farage shaking his head again. No, we just want them to piss off. We don't want them to work. We don't want them. We just want them gone. And I actually quite like this guy. He's making a very good point here. You know, especially at a time where how many vacancies for farming and stuff do we need right now? We're absolutely desperate for workers. He's saying, why are we having such a cost on the economy by putting these people up? Get them to work. Give them a national insurance number. This is what they want to do. Get them on the farms working. Give them accommodation on the farms and get them working. But Farage, he wants to send them to Rewanda, get them to all cost in some sort of camp that he wants. I don't know, but it makes common sense to me.
Tax-paying, contributing members of society who actually put cash in rather than take cash out. That seems to be a far more sensible way to go about this. And just as for the population size problems, I mean, the United Kingdom's population before the 1800s was about a third that of France. We had the Industrial Revolution. We overtook France in terms of our population. That made us the premier power in the world. Well, that delivered such prosperity for our country, and we can deal. We will be much better to face the problems of the future by having a larger, stronger population.
Now you're taking the long view. We're getting into very deep demographic waters here. Nigel Farage, the last word to you.
These are not refugees. They're not asylum seekers, Tom. They are illegal immigrants into this country. 85% of them are young men between the ages of 18 and 28 who... 18 and 28.
Perfect age for working.
Who deserted their home countries.
Went from their families in their home countries to try and work, get some money to send back.
Refugees, they are economic migrants pursuing an economic dream. They deserted their families from their home countries, and many of them will finish up as slaves or working in crime.
Yeah, because you won't give them a national insurance number to work legally, will you? You want to ship them to Rwanda.
In Britain, we should be ashamed of what we're doing, and let's call it what it is. And frankly, on your last point, you know, the reason that wages have gone down, the reason you can't get your kids into local schools, the reason that NHS waiting lists are what they are, that traffic is what it is that our population has officially risen by 8 million so far since 2020.
I think that's enough of that. I mean, Am I crazy, or it often amazes me how someone can watch the same interview and take something completely different from it. You know, any sort of Farage supporters or Brexit supporters in general will take something completely different from that interview. But what I took from that interview is, first of all, now we're outside the EU. Dinghies coming over from France. We used to be able to send them back to France because we were inside the EU, but now we can't. So that hasn't helped the situation coming out of the EU. Secondly, Denmark appears to have a perfectly good immigration policy and doesn't have too many problems with illegal immigration while being inside the EU. So what was the point of leaving in the first place? Two, appears we've got an influx of 18 to 30-year-olds, decent workers to start working in the farms. Let's get them national insurance number. Let's get them paying taxes. Let's put some money into the economy rather than sending them to Rwanda. And fourthly, Nigel Farage is a tit. Basically. Oh, I don't know. As always, give me your thoughts down below, guys. And thanks to Geese Test Clark for your comment. Till next time.
What the Farage?